Services, Lands and Mineral Resources, the Honourable Jone Usamate. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Members of Cabinet, Cabinet Ministers, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Members of Parliament and the people of Fiji. I rise to support the motion by the Prime Minister to thank His Excellency the President for his most gracious address. Mr. Speaker, sir, I take this time also to express my condolences to the Honourable Mbulitavo for the loss of his father, and wish him and his family God's peace in their time of sorrow. I also wish the Honourable Lithia Ngonimbaravi a speedy and full recovery. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to thank the former President for his sterling service over his historic 6-year tenure as our head of state. Our first President not to have been a High Chief of Fiji and not an Itoke, but he has proven from his service that he was the right choice for that high office. He has been a true patriot, a true son of Fiji, and I thank him for his many years of service to the people of Fiji and to the world. I thank him not only for being a great national leader, but also for other things that he has done, by being the champion in the battle against NCDs, for being an advocate of physical activity and a living, walking example of a person who farms the land. Many of those who have worked in State House during his tenure have become much fitter from the early morning walks and the physical activities that he led. Many have benefited from his teaching on how to plant and look after food crops. So he has left an indelible imprint on the lives of many in this country at many different levels. Congratulations also to Ratu Williame Maivaleli Katonibere, Toke Mbalatangani, for his appointment as our head of state. His appointment has been particularly apt as he brings into play his own experiences from being a farmer, a soldier, a villager, a director of companies, a businessman and a traditional leader. He has shown that he deserves this position by virtue of merit. He is a High Chief. He has, however, been appointed as President on the basis of merit because of his experiences, his wisdom, knowledge, and achievements over the years. Merit is something that this government advocates in all walks of life and in the service of this nation. He is a family man and a good example for this country, a champion of the oceans and of the environment, a person really needed in Fiji. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have been quite astounded at the actual disrespect that has been shown by some of the comments of members of the opposition towards His Excellency the President. Some of them have mouthed their appreciation of his address and in the very next breath belittle his comments. They belittle him and his high office. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am the son of a single mother with my biological father hailing from Naivaka in Bua. So I'm from Bua. My mother is from the Sangalao in Lakamba, and I'm Volakaumbula to Lakamba because I'm the son of a single mother. But most of my life, I've been bred and lived in Kalambo Netasiri, so I'm also a Kai Netasiri. But I was raised by my stepfather, sir, my second father through my childhood years, who looked after me to manhood. And he hails from Rahualu in Kandavu, but his family are originally from Nasasa, Nandonga, and Maduata. So as I listen to these things, the comments that I made with my Mbuan and Maduata background, I've been overwhelmed with pride in Ratu William's ascension to being appointed as head of state. And I wish the old man who raised me, who passed away in 2017, would have been around to witness his appointment. He would have been bursting with happiness and pride. All over Vanua level, there's been an outpouring of well wishes and pride in his appointment. Expressions of appreciation for the election, the appointment of the Toke Mbolatangani to the highest office in the land. The lights of Mbolatangani have been turned on. Singandamutu Vanua has been the call from all across the Vanua of the Motalevu. And I find it immensely distasteful. Therefore, when I hear disrespectful comments made about the Wanturanga to Maduata, such disrespect has come from those who in this parliament have repeatedly purported to uphold respect accorded to chiefs. They thank him for his most gracious address, and then, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the same breath, they belittle him. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, is two-faced, forked-tongue speaking. Absolutely despicable, disgraceful. And on that note, I appreciate the Honorable Mbolitago for supporting his chief, a High Chief of Vunolevu, in ascending to this role. His Excellency's address has been on point and right on target. He has highlighted important issues that are critical right now and which in turn are national priorities for this government and for this country. He has asked us to focus on the collective good, not only on the good of a few, or not only on our personal good, but that of every Fijian, those who live today and those that will follow us, our children and our grandchildren, your children and your grandchildren. He has told us that he is committed to preserving and strengthening democracy. He has stressed the need to restore Fiji economically, and he has highlighted how critical climate change and the oceans are. Every one of these issues is a key priority, every single one of them. And it's a key priority right now for this government, and will remain our key priority into the future. And his address has been a sharp reminder of why we are here. His words have been timely, and his words need to penetrate deep into our minds, especially all of us that are leaders in these chambers. He has talked about the need to protect and strengthen our democracy. How do we do this? We need to ensure that those forces that destroyed democracy in this country in the past do not do so again. That they do not destroy what we have built so far. This week, our soldiers have departed for the Solomon Islands, to assist in the restoration of normalcy in that country. And like all of us in this parliament, I pray that normalcy will be returned to the Solomons as quickly as possible. This latest eruption in the Solomon Islands seems to be related to their decisions on whether to be aligned to Taiwan or China, but it seems also to be aligned to things that have happened in their past, events that led to the establishment of Ramsey years ago. We have seen the reports this week of Chinese families being attacked and losing all that they have built up over the years that they have been in the Solomon Islands. As I saw this report, I thought back to my good friend Josefa Tuamoto, who recently passed away and who spent a number of years in the Solomon Islands assisting in building up their tourism industry. I hope that the work he did there, together with his colleagues in the Solomons to build up their tourism sector, will not have gone to waste given these recent events. We have had similar history in this country. We have had the events of 1987. We have had the events of 2000, where the politics of ethnicity and religion brought about the loss of democracy and economic turmoil. This is what we need to battle in order to maintain our democracy. This is what we need to control in order to strengthen our democracy and our future. The events of 2006 were the beginnings of the rectifying the forces that led to problems in the past. That is what 2006 stands for. The Honorable Inyasero Ratu has laid out in his speech yesterday what the approach has been. It has been a long, painstaking process. 2006 allowed for concerted efforts to fix these issues once and for all. It was focused on addressing the underlying forces that have led to our problems in this country. The division amongst the races, the division amongst religions. We cannot allow this to tear us apart. Our problems were institutional and systemic. They have had to be addressed systemically and by rectifying institutions. The 2013 Constitution has laid that foundation. 2013 Constitution has addressed this in a number of fundamental ways. Equality of citizenship to all citizens. Socio-economic rights for all. To address the inequalities in our nation. Inequality, Mr. Speaker, sir, is not an ethnic issue. It is not an ethnic issue. It is about different classes of people and what they have access to and what they don't have access to. Poverty is not limited to any ethnic group or any religious group. It transcends these boundaries. Should our focus on addressing poverty change because of any particular ethnic group being the ones suffering from poverty more than others? No. We focus on all who are in poverty equally, irrespective of who they are. That is what the Fiji First government stands for. Over the years, all governments have tried to address inequalities, but no government has addressed it to the extent that the Bainimarama government and the Fiji First has done so. Changes in taxation systems, raising the minimum level of salary at which taxation starts. Today, no one earning less than 30,000 gets taxed. All that money that they use for their own family. The massive rise, the immense, huge, humongous increase in the budget that has been given to the Ministry of Social Welfare, Women and Poverty. New and raised benefits, including pensions for the elderly. Pensions for the elderly. People who used to wait for people to come and help them, now they get money every month to look after their own needs. Subsidized bus fares. This has given a heightened level of freedom, a feeling of self-worth for thousands in this country. Benefits from Itoke land payments are now spread equally amongst all Itoke landowners. This past week we have seen photographs in the papers of people turning 18 and there's money that is available for them. That is battling inequality. That is what we're talking about. Subsidized water and electricity, no school fees, no bus fares. Earlier this week, Mr. Speaker, they were talking about this government giving freebies. If you're a family that's not earning much and you're getting free water, that's not a freebie. That is a leg up, that is a hand up to help you. It is a way of addressing inequality. Subsidizing electricity for those that do not have much income is not a freebie. That is helping them. Paying for their school fees is not a freebie. It is helping them and it's eliminating the inequalities that happen in this country. Massive investments to protect women and children in terms of our laws that this government under this Prime Minister has pushed very strongly. Commitment to supplying clean and safe water to all and electricity for all without contribution from those that need it. Electricity for the people up in Monasavu. Even though they are providing the electricity, but they never got it. Under this government, they got it. When the Nandarivatu power came on, the people in that area were also provided electricity. There's a commitment to everybody in this country. The protection of all Itoke land rights. For the first time ever has this been completely enshrined in the Constitution at a level never seen before. A way of electing our representatives that minimize our focus on ethnicities and geographical representation. These two things have been the cause of problems in the past. When we elect, we focus only on our own ethnicity, it leads to problems. When we focus only on the people that live in our geographical areas, eventually it leads to problems. And that's what this Constitution has tried to put a stop to. Because we need to battle the things that led to our problems in the past. 2030 Constitution has also put in place new institutions that focus on eliminating corruption. FICAC has been put in place to get rid of corruption, to address it. It's still this work in progress, but political parties need to address this also, Mr. Speaker, sir. The Fiji First Party, it's asked its members to resign if they have done something that is unethical or if they've been accused of such. That is what this party does. We ask them to resign, to leave if they have been put into those situations. This is in marked contrast to representative of some other parties whose members are accused of the same thing and are still in this house. What does that tell us, Mr. Speaker, sir, about what different parties and their leadership hold dear? Actions speak, actions scream. They yell out and tell the world, here, look at me. This is what is important to me. This is what is important to our party. Our political system encourages all politicians to not just focus on one ethnic or one geographical area, because if you continue down that path, you start emphasizing differences rather than what brings us together. Differences rather than commonalities. Our system is designed to bring people together. It is designed to ensure proportionality so that the party that wins the most votes gets the most seats in Parliament, to ensure that people's wish of who to lead them becomes reality. If we focus on our divisions, we get into trouble, and our past tells us that. Such divisions have been manifest also. Places like Solomon Islands, Rwanda, Serbia, Croatia, all of these countries. Fiji must never go down that path. We must put a stop to it. Our political system encourages us to minimize emphasis on our differences, whilst at the same time not giving up on what is important to each of our ethnic groupings. Already this week, we have seen the Honourable Filipe Tusawau get on his Sunset Clause bus. He's ramping up the engines once more. The scare tactics of ethnicity have started again. This week on social media, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have seen allegations made about Muslims in Fiji taking over the country. Prior to previous elections, we saw social media posts about the government building, this one, having a similar dome to Muslim temples, scaremongering happening, even though that building was built by the British ages ago. This happens before every election. It happened during Bhutan Rocker time. It happened 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and 20 years ago, as was spoken by a member of parliament earlier this week. It has happened over the past two elections. It shows groups trying to use this to gather support. Last election, we were told that Kandawu had been sold, that Fiji soil and Vonolova had been sold to the Chinese. We know, the people in this room, we know that these things are ridiculous, that they are absurd, but not the people out there reading all this stuff. They believe it. And that is what is dangerous, that people believe these things. Some people believe that vaccines were full of 666, and that led to a whole host of people not getting vaccinated. Many of them changed their mind after they realized they would not get the 360 unless they were vaccinated. Some here today in Parliament have got into Parliament by pandering and aiding to this kind of rhetoric in the past to gain votes. His Excellency, the President, is telling us not to do that. Put the country's needs before your own desire to win votes. Put the long-term interests of this country first, is what he has asked to do. These kinds of lies spread on social media have the potential to lead to the kind of conflict that destroys democracies and destroys economies and the collective future of our people. One case in point is all the hullabaloo about the Bill 17. We have had a Ministry of Turkey Affairs team and Turkey Affairs board team going out correcting all the misconceptions. And when people realize what the truth is, they thank the people that are giving that information. Such things may seem minor. Sometimes these things seem minor, but they are dangerous. And I keep saying this, never forget what happened in Rwanda. In a very short time, it became ethnic violence. That is something that we must never have in this country. Everything that the Bainimarama government and the Fiji First government has done has been designed to address this and to make sure that this scourge, this cancer, does not rear its ugly head again in this country. And our election system is designed to address that. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have listened with great alarm on some of the attacks that have been made on the Prime Minister and the AG and the delegation that went to Glasgow to be part of COP26. I shuddered literally and thought to myself, are these the sentiments that they are expressing real? Or are they just the normal kind of negativity one has come to expect from this inept, blind, rudderless opposition? What would become of us if such people were leading this country? We would have a group of inept leaders who sat here in Fiji twiddling their thumbs and biting their fingernails while the natural world was being destroyed. Climate change is the scourge of our time. No matter what we do in Fiji, we will be living within the kind of world that the climate allows us to live in. Science has proven that this changing climate is man-made, just as science proved that vaccines could help us control COVID-19. And out of our experience, this past week we have seen tourists are coming back, the country has proven and it's shown that the vaccines work, that science works in this regard. We know that unless we can get the big emitters to change what they are doing, that we in the Pacific are doomed. We have to do this for our children and our grandchildren, for your children and your grandchildren. Leaders lead. Leaders pinpoint what needs to be done, and they do it. No matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how difficult it is, they sally forth. They energize those around them to do the same. Leaders go to where the battle is, and they do battle there. They do not sit around doing nothing. They do not just talk, they sally forth and do battle. Our Prime Minister went forth to Glasgow to give it his very best shot. Being at a COP is not a holiday. It's a non-stop affair, non-stop whirlwind of constantly trying to convince other nations to give up on things in order to save the Pacific. It is a battle to get the needs of the Pacific agreed to by the world. It requires physical presence because a lot of the meetings are done on the fly. Strategies need to change midstream as events and developments unfold. It is exhausting and non-stop to try and influence the agreements that the world makes. Because to have not done so would have been the hallmark of a defeatist, and this is what these opposition members have called for. Mr. Speaker, sir, to sit around not doing anything while the climate is being destroyed is criminal and cowardly, to say the least. The Honourable Kurundrani stated that the climate change is not a priority. Not a priority. I beg to differ. Villages are sinking. Sea levels are rising. Reefs are being killed off. Oceans are warming. Salt water is getting into our water tables. Life itself is under threat. Climate change is leading to more severe flooding, fires, massive cyclones, all having a major impact on life. This is the challenge of our time. Rather than condemn the Prime Minister and the AG, we need to thank them for going forth to fight for our future, fight for our children's future, fight for the Pacific's future and our grandchildren's future. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency has pointed out that we need to choose who is best to lead us. We need to ask, the people of Fiji need to ask, who has the sound philosophy and the politics that creates stability, that builds confidence, that ensures equal treatment and equal opportunity? What is the vision of the group that wants to lead this country? What ideas do they bring? What ideas and plans? How will they finance their socio-economic policies and legislative ambition? What choices do we have? SODELPA is a choice. A party that has been eaten away from within. Eaten away from within. Not from without. From within. From within. Destroyed from within. Mr. Speaker, sir, I feel for the leader of SODELPA. He has been stabbed in the back by his own party members and the very people who sit with him in Parliament. But the question is this the kind of party that we need to lead this country? If they are backstabbing each other now, what will they do if they ever get into power? Stab in the back and stab from the front. The other option that they have also, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the National People's Alliance, led by a former Prime Minister who started us on the road to coups, under whose watch repugnant and rampant corruption reigned that saw to the demise of our very own National Bank of Fiji. Every now and then on the other side of the chamber, they talk about the entrenched clauses in the old constitution, the entrenched clauses that were supposed to protect the Itoke. Every now and then they bring this up. They bring it up again and again. It was supposed to preserve the Itoke. But it was while these entrenched provisions in the conclusion were still in place that Sitiveni Rambuka led a coup. He led a coup that was supposed to be for the Itoke interests when the so-called clauses were still in place. Whose interest was being served? Whose interest? That is the question that I asked. The leader of the party also showed up at the QAB after the attempted takeover of the RFMF CAF that sought the murder of our Prime Minister and also the current commander of the RFMF. The question is, why was he there? Why? What did he know? What was he doing? Is that the kind of leadership that we need? The third option that we seem to have, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the National Federation Party. The National Federation Party is a party that's steeped in history. Steeped in history. The NFP of A.D. Patel, of Siddiq Kwaya, of Jairam Reddy. Steeped in history. But that is not this NFP. Yes. This NFP is nothing close to that NFP. Nothing close at all. And then there is, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Fiji First Party. The Fiji First Party, led by a team that has put together a 20-year plan mapping out Fiji's future over the next 20 years with a 5-year plan. A well-set-out vision. A party that is united. A party that is focused. that has proven itself as putting people first, led by a leader whose vision has never changed, who has been fearless, who is committed, and who is decisive. A leader who has had a special place in his heart and always makes time for women and children. And that's why today, as we are looking at women and children and what is it? What's the date?
16 days.
16 days of activism. I tell you, this is the Prime Minister who has lived and breathed that. Everywhere that he goes in the rural communities, he always pays special attention to the women and children of this country. He's made sure that we have the laws in place to protect women and children. That is the choice we have in this country, Mr. Speaker, sir. Who fits the bill? Who will you choose? There is only one choice. This Prime Minister and the Fiji First Party. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will speak about the things that my ministry, or not my ministry, the ministry does are self-evident. But as I finished, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I got off the vehicle this morning in Parliament, I looked across, I saw the sequoia in full bloom. Sequoia, when it blooms, you know Christmas is around the corner. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish all the honourable members on the other side the very best for this Christmas season. To you and your family, sir, and to all of us, and to the people of Fiji, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I thank the Honourable Minister for his contribution to the debate. Honourable members, on that note, we will take a break and Parliament will resume in half an hour.